Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Kai and without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into today's video. So today we are going to be doing some really fun clowncore nails, and I have not done clown nails since almost 2 years ago at this point. I did it for Halloween in 2023, I believe, and I feel like I'm finally ready to tackle this nail set, which you guys don't know this, but I've been looking at this nail set for a couple of months now, and it's been very intimidating to me with all of the colors, and the nail art was kind of inconspicuous and I didn't really know what was really going on, honestly. But today I'm like, I'm gonna put my fears aside and I'm just gonna tackle it. I've been procrastinating for way too long. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. The first thing that I'm gonna do, as always, is just go ahead and prep my nails. Now, as of recently, I've been really getting into using a cuticle remover or a cuticle softener instead of filing the cuticle area using a cuticle bit. And I just find that it has done wonders for the health of my nails, and it works just as good as using a cuticle bit. So I will make sure to have this listed in my description box. I'm pretty sure that most cuticle softeners work the same, but if you want to have access to exactly what I'm using, I will have it down below. So after I've lifted up the cuticles with my cuticle softener, I'm going to go ahead and just cut them back as usual. And for this part, I really only like to cut anything that is kind of straggly and is definitely like ready to come off. I don't like to go too far and start cutting back too much at the skin. If I can actually feel myself cutting, I feel like I'm cutting off too much. So that is just a good basis that I like to work off of. Now, once my cuticles are nice and cut back, I'm just going to file my nails nice and even using a glass nail file. This is also another product that I have been meaning to get into for quite some time because, as you guys know, I am an 80/80 grit nail file girly. I was going to say something inappropriate, but I'm not going to say that. I love a good coarse nail file, but it's really not the greatest for the health of my natural nails. So I've been using the 320 grit on this glass nail file for a little bit, and honestly, I really enjoy it. So again, I'll make sure to have this in my description as well. Now, once that's all done, I'm going to go ahead and just buff the surface very slightly. I'm really only doing this to get up any excess cuticle that might have been stuck to my nail plate, and also just to remove the shine for the peel off base coat that I'm going to be applying in just a bit. So for today, we're going to be using a peel off base coat, and as usual, I'm going to be going in with a little bit of cuticle oil first. Now, I do mention this pretty often, but if you don't know, you do not necessarily have to use a cuticle oil when using a peel off base coat. I just find that it's a lot easier for me to remove the nails directly afterwards, but if you're looking to keep these on for a couple of days, upwards to like maybe a week, emphasis on maybe, but if you want to keep these on for longer than a day, I would definitely recommend not doing the cuticle oil and going straight in with the 2 coats of the peel off base coat. And for each layer, I do cure that for a full 60 seconds. So now we're going to get into our gel tip application, and for today I'm going to be using these nail tips that I got on Shein a little bit ago, and these nail tips are pretty good for what I like to do here today, and I like these nail tips because they do have a pretty good apex. The only downside is that I wouldn't recommend using these for longer nail sets because these nail tips don't really have that much structure, so you do want to be careful and try and keep these only for shorter to medium length nails. But for me personally, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be taking these off directly afterwards. So after I've sized out all of my tips, I'm going to be scuffing the inside of the nail tip with a drill bit. The reason I like to do this is because without a bit of friction or some type of scratches inside of the nail tip, the gel isn't going to stick properly and these are going to end up popping off. And even though I am going to be taking these off afterwards, they would pop off super quickly if I didn't buff the inside. If you are using something like an Après Gel X nail tip, they are already scuffed and they already have a bit of friction in the inside. And usually if you're working with any type of full cover gel nail tip that's kind of dull and kind of matte on the inside, that's usually an indicator that you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing here. But if the nail tip is pretty shiny, this is definitely something I would recommend. In some cases, I have seen people use acetone to create a bit of friction in the inside, but do bear in mind that that method only works for certain types of nail tips, depending on what the nail tip is made out of and things of that nature. So to cure these nail tips on, I'm going to be using some Model 1's Builder Gel. For me personally, I just really like using this product because the nail glues that I have aren't really that good, and I find that this one has a pretty good hold. And of course, to cure these on, I'm going to be using my portable lamp that is of course in my description box. Now after I've got these nail tips cured on, I'm going to be cutting them down using some tip cutters. And for today, we're going to be keeping these pretty long because I feel like it's been a while since I've done some long almond nails, so I'm not going to cut them down too short. And after I've cut them down to my desired length, I'm going to be taking some straight edge nail clippers and I'm going to cut them into the rough almond shape. Now I'm going to be taking my 88 grit nail file and I'm going to be filing them nice and neat. Now, the second to last thing that I like to do when I'm working with these nail tips is just blend the cuticle area of the nail tip into my natural cuticle. Now, these nail tips fit pretty nicely into my natural nail, but I do feel like it could be a bit more seamless. So I like to use this ceramic bit just to help further blend it in and make it look a little bit more natural. Now, to close off the extension process, I'm just going to buff the surface of these nails, and I really like to make sure to remove every last bit of shine that I may see, just to make sure that when I get onto the nail art process, I don't have any issues with the nail polish not really sticking correctly. So now we're getting into the nail art, and of course the first thing that I'm going to do is just mix out all of my colors, and this is the nail set that we're going to be doing today. Again, this is one that I've been looking at for quite some time now, but I didn't want to do it because I was scared. I was kind of scared and intimidated because, I don't know, I was a bit confused at what I was looking at, so I just put it off. But again, it's been almost 2 years since I've done a Clowncore nail set, and the last one was something a bit more spooky, quote unquote spooky. It wasn't spooky at all, but it was for Halloween, so you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I haven't done something like this in a very long time, and yeah, I just feel like it was definitely speaking to me today. This is also one of the first times that I've done a nail set that was this purple, and I'm kind of liking it. Now, in the past, I have been asked to do purple nail sets, and it's something that I've always kind of put off for later because out of every single color in the rainbow, purple is probably my least favorite. And so that's probably why you don't see a lot of purple nail sets, or just purple being the main color in really much of any of my nail sets. I did like maybe 2 purple nail sets in the first year of my nail channel, which was over 2 years ago at this point. Kind of crazy. I feel like I've been doing this for so much longer, but I guess I haven't. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, the first thing that I'm going to be doing is just painting the entire surface of all 5 of my nails using this purple. And this part is pretty straightforward. I'm going to paint the surface, and then I'm taking a small line art brush just to make sure that I'm getting as close to my cuticle area as possible. So now we are going to get started on the first nail, and this one is more of a bubbly sort of bubble wrap looking nail to me, but I really wanted to incorporate a bit of variation in color because again, I wasn't really sure exactly what the nail artist did to achieve that look in the reference photo, but I did know that there was some other color variation besides just purple. So I did add some different colors using some airbrush colors that I got from Savaland. Now in between each color, I am making sure to clean off my skin with some isopropyl alcohol, and afterwards I'm going to go ahead and cure that. Now I would normally just go in with all of the colors at once, but I wanted to make sure that I knew what colors I was going to be using and that they didn't blend together and get super muddy. So yeah, I did cure after each color. And now that my different colors are on, I'm going to be going in with a single layer of top coat. The reason I am using top coat is because we're going to be going over all 5 of these nails using some iridescent chrome powder. And I find that you get the best burnish when you're using a top coat. And for this top coat layer, I'm not going to be curing for a full 60. I'm only going to be curing for about 25 to 30 seconds. And once that's cured, I'm going to go straight in with my iridescent chrome powder. For this nail set, I do feel like you can use pretty much any chrome powder that you want. For today, I'm using one that shifts in between pink and green and some other colors, but those are the ones that stuck out the most in this powder. So once that is on, I'm going to go in with some rhinestone glue and create some bubbles on top of this nail. And this portion is fairly simple, but one that you definitely have to take your time with because it's very easy to make these bubbles too big and then they start to blend together. So you want to make sure that there is a bit of space in between each of the bubbles. And also just to maintain that 3D appearance, I'm making sure to cure after each of the bubbles. And once I top that with some top coat, that nail is all done. So now we're going to move on to the middle finger, and this one again is going to be topped in some iridescent chrome powder. So I'm just going to go in with another layer of top coat, and I'm going to cure that for about 25 to 30 seconds. Now this nail is probably one of the most difficult in this nail set, and that's because this one is a diamond pattern. And anytime I do diamonds or checkers or straight line patterns, I find that it's definitely very difficult for me because I usually do these nail sets at night and I get pretty tired very easily. So dedicating this much time to making sure that the lines are nice and crisp and clean is definitely a challenge for me. So if you are doing this, make sure that you're setting aside enough time to actually do this, which by the way, if you are someone who likes to do nail art, that's something that you should be doing anyway. But yes, this is a diamond pattern nail set, and the 2 colors that I'm going to be using is this light pink and a red, and I'm going to be alternating between both of these colors all throughout the entire nail. For extra crispy lines, I am making sure to use a very long line art brush. Anything that's pretty short is probably going to end up giving you shaky and unstable lines, so that is something to look out for. now now to create the cushiony effect, I'm going to be going over those diamonds with some rhinestone glue. Now, one thing I will say is that it probably wasn't a good idea for me to use a completely clear rhinestone glue. What I should have done is mixed a bit of that pink and red into it to create a less bubbly effect. It was very, very bubbly and it kind of ruined the overall effect, but in the end, it wasn't super terrible. But if you want a better effect, I would definitely recommend using a colored rhinestone glue. And because this is rhinestone glue and it's a bit thick, you don't want to go all the way to the edges because you really don't want the rhinestone glue to bleed into another piece and then you end up with this huge blob on the entire nail. So once that's finished, I'm going to be going in with some gold beads on the corners of each of these diamonds. And of course, I am curing these on using some rhinestone glue. And to finish off this nail, I'm going to be going in with a layer of top coat and I'm going to cure that for a full 60 seconds. So now we're onto the ring finger, and this is going to be our first clown nail. Now before we get into anything, I'm going to be doing a pink airbrush in the center of this nail. Now do bear in mind that if you are recreating this nail set, you might want to create a larger airbrush in the center because we are going to be doing the clown face right in the middle of the nail and you don't want the pink to be completely covered up. Now once I have that airbrush on, I'm going to go in with a single layer of top coat so that we can again add the iridescent chrome powder. So before we get into those clowns, I'm going to be bordering this nail with some stars and some swirls. And I will be honest, I wasn't planning on doing a lot of these stars and swirls and zigzags because I didn't really like it on the nail set, but I do feel like it adds to the whimsy and the clowncore aesthetic, I guess. So I did follow the reference photo pretty closely for this design. And for the most part, I will be using a medium liner brush to help me create those swirls and those stars, especially for these swirls. You don't want to use anything that's too long because you're not going to have as much control over the curve of the swirl. And for that top red star, I'm going to be outlining it in some white gel polish. So now we are finally going to get into the first clown, and for the majority of the face, I'm going to be using this white 3D sculpting gel. And I used this clay in my last video and I really enjoyed it, and I want to use it again today. So I'm going to be using that to create the face. Now this face is going to be shaped like a heart, so I am going to be using these little silicone tools to help me shape it. It did take me quite a bit of time to work it into the correct shape, but overall I think it looked pretty nice. Now for the face, I started out by creating a small little flower on the left side, and I do feel like in retrospect, I probably should have made the flower slightly darker because you can't really see it, so that might be something that you want to change. And now we're going to go in with the star eyes. It's very simple. I'm starting out with 2 dots and I'm going to drag out 4 corners for each of the eyes. And now I'm just going to draw the tiny little eyebrows at the top of the heart. And I'm making sure not to go too close to the edge because I am going to be bordering this face with some pearls, and I want to make sure to leave enough space. And lastly, I'm going to draw the nose and the lips with some red gel polish. Now this part's optional, but I did decide to add some red cheeks, and I really feel like it made the sort of clown aesthetic come together. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to be bordering the face with some white pearls. And to finish off this nail, I'm going to go in with a single layer of top coat. And now we're working on our pinky nail, which is arguably the easiest nail in this entire nail set. I am, of course, again starting out with some light airbrush towards the tip of the nail and towards the cuticle area. And for this nail, I chose to go with a light pink towards the tip and a hot pink towards the cuticle. And before I do the swirl, I'm going to go over this nail with some top coat for the iridescent chrome powder. Now I'm going to be using some rhinestone glue to create a very large swirl on this pinky nail, and I actually ended up doing this in 2 layers because I wanted it to be super thick. Now to be honest, this was actually the nail that I was going to omit from this nail set, and I was just like, maybe I'll do something else because I didn't feel like it would look right if I did it, because again, there was a lot of inconspicuous nail art in this nail set and I didn't really know how to achieve the exact same look. So I was just gonna try and like figure something else out. But at this point I was tired and I'm like, yeah, it's like 12:30 a.m. and I need to be done. So I just ended up doing this swirl, and honestly it wasn't that bad. And even though it is a fairly simple nail, I do feel like it still pairs pretty nicely with the rest of this nail set. So after I did the second layer, I did go over that nail with a layer of top coat. And now we are ready to move on to the final nail, and that is going to be another clown nail. This one doesn't have any airbrush, so I'm going to go straight in with my iridescent chrome powder. Now, I actually thought that this was very funny, but while I was doing this nail set, I didn't even realize that you could see my face in these nails. I didn't realize it until I was editing. I'm like, why am I looking at myself right now? Very creepy, but yeah, just ignore that. We are gonna do the same thing that we did on our middle finger. I'm gonna start out by creating a couple of stars and swirls on this nail. And again, I am following the reference photo pretty closely for this nail. So now we're gonna go back in with this white sculpting gel, and we're finally gonna do the face on this nail. And this one is a lot more simple. It's just gonna be a round circle in the center of the nail. And by the way, I did add a tiny amount of base coat just towards the center of the nail where I'm gonna be putting the sculpting gel. Because as I mentioned in my last video, these clays don't really stick that well to smooth surfaces. And because they're not sticky, they just don't stick. So I wanted to add a layer of base coat just to make it so that these don't move around as easily. And once I've got the face in place, I'm going to be using this green and white sculpting gel to create the center part of the hat. And this was kind of tricky because it's a triangle shape, but it's also curved at the tip of the nail. So this took me a good while to get, but eventually I was like, this looks good enough. And so I ended up doing the same thing for the two white pieces of the hat on the left and right side. And it wasn't exactly perfect, but I think that it was good enough, so I'm not complaining. And now, similarly to what I did on my middle finger, I'm going to be drawing the face of the clown. The only difference is that instead of the star having 4 sides, this one is going to have 8 sides. So at this point, my phone was running out of storage. So I didn't get all of the footage of me doing the decorations, but I basically just added a tiny bow for the clown, and I did a couple of stripes and gold little beads on the ends of the hat. And after that, I went in with my final layer of top coat. So here is what the nails are looking like once they're all finished. And now I'm gonna finish these nails off with a little bit of cuticle oil. And that completes today's set. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this one. I really like this nail set, and again, I'm not the hugest purple fan, but these nails were really, really cute, and I feel like they don't really do it for me on camera. I feel like they look a lot better in person, but I just feel like these nails are so fun, and these aren't spring related at all, but I just really wanted to do something that was fun and colorful and kind of pay homage to my clown nail set from 2 years ago. So let me know what you guys think of this nail set in the comments. I would definitely give this nail set a good 9 out of 10. The one thing I'm not really a fan of is probably the middle finger. I think if I executed it differently, I would have loved every part of this nail set, but I think I might have dropped the ball a little bit. But that is okay, you know, not everything's gonna be perfect. It's fine. I would say that my favorite nail out of all of them would definitely be, again, my pointer finger. Like, I don't know, my last 2 videos, my pointer fingers have been so good. But yeah, I just really like this nail set overall, and I would definitely give this one a shot if I were you. Even if you are a beginner, I say, you know, why not challenge yourself to something fun? But anyways, yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I wanna say thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you guys in the next one.